Mado, Mado. Quelle leçon? Zoyaha, Yuchiha. Sangeli. Kadane, Adane. I'll tell you what I just said was good morning. How are all of you? And I am Wildcat, and I am a UC person, a UC human being. So I really like the way Phoenicia and her partners in crime have sort of laid this out. So I'm just going to make kind of a few opening remarks, and then we'll pass this microphone on to someone else. But so when I received the email about this program, Perspectives on Native Landscapes, I was really excited, and I had been invited by Cindy and Carmen out to do another program last November, and so when I was here, I said, if you'll have me back, I really want to be at this meeting. There's something in the air right now, and I think what it is general dissatisfaction with the human-built environments that we've created on the planet. People have been warehoused, essentially. We talk about housing developments. We think of the land in terms of zoning and property. And I think we're getting results we should expect. And those results are general dissatisfaction with people have with where they live and how they're living. And unfortunately, of course, all this coincided, the big housing boom with that greatest generation. My father and my uncles were all a part of that. Those World War II veterans who came back, and then we had this suburban explosion. We had cheap carbon energy, and the carbon energy now we know is, although we're producing more of it than we ever have, and that's, I think, probably fairly predictable given the institutions we move through daily. We do know that people are increasingly unhappy about having to drive, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour to get to work and, of course, get home, and that it's impossible for them to nearly walk anywhere the way we've often laid out large suburban sprawls, and the way that these so-called megalopolises have grown. And so what I'm going to suggest today is that we think about several things. I mean, just some things that have been rattling around with me for a long time. I said it's in the air because I just came from a meeting at the University of Oklahoma at the School of Architecture, Design, Construction, and Planning. And it was interesting. It was the first time they had ever had a colloquium that focused on Native perspectives. First time. University of Oklahoma, over 30 tribes in Oklahoma. Never once a program where they had Native people talking about perspectives on design, perspectives on planning. So I really do believe this symposium is coming at a really important time. So let me throw out a couple of challenges and questions that we can think about today. I think we have to be humble in terms of thinking, what kinds of impacts, what kinds of changes each of you can be a catalyst in creating. The systems that we move through are very large. They have very sunk cost. And the power in those institutions isn't necessarily unhappy with the way things are rolling out. And so I think this is just, you have to be very realistic about what you can do, where you can do it, with whom you should work. Of course, and that's the good news, because I think large institutions move very slowly, whether they be private, whether they be public. whether they be profit-driven or public service-driven, they move very slowly. So what I'm going to argue is that we need to have multiple exercises of what I will define in my keynote as indigenous ingenuity or indigenuity. We need to find every opportunity we can to create in local environments, in small environments, in landscapes, exercises of indigenuity. And that's going to mean, in my mind, that we're going to have to tackle some pretty big issues. I have to. My disclaimer here is that you know, sometimes when people hear me talk, they think, oh, this is some sort of, you know, indigenous, you know, sort of a neo-Luddite or something, some anti-technology person. Quite the contrary. I don't think the issue is technology. I think it's the culture in which we have applied technologies. I think the fact that we view technology as essentially almost the ultimate measuring stick, the level at which you have technology and the way in which you use it to reshape the natural world, that we use that as the measuring stick for progress or advancement or civilization, is part of the problem. I think indigenous worldviews offer an interesting counterpoint to that. And that counterpoint would be that the ultimate value of technology has to be mediated. It's kind of in mathematics they would call it an operator of a value. It's almost like a function statement, but I've called it the 3C over E. T, the value of T, technology is equal to 3C over E. What does that mean? Well, the common denominator is always our environment, and ultimately it's the land itself. And I think that's the denominator. The numerators that express the value of technology are quite simple. They are community, communication, and culture. And to the extent that you're dissatisfied with lack of community, to the extent that you're dissatisfied with the kind of culture you find yourself immersed in, and to the extent that you feel like no one listens to you, communication, I think we have a tremendous opportunity to rethink about technology and its value as always mediated and shaped by 3C over E. Is it enhancing of our communities? Is it enhancing of our cultures? Is it enhancing of communication? And is it realistically connected not to the land in the abstract, not to nature in the abstract, but to specific places that we call home? The advantage of listening to what native people have to say about landscapes is that our incredible cultural diversity. The Miwoks aren't like the White Mountain Apache. The White Mountain Apache aren't like the Seminole. The Seminole aren't like the Abenaki. The Abenaki aren't like the Swinomish, Duwamish tribes of the Northwest Coast. And all of those groups are different from those Plains tribes that moved up and down the middle of what we now call the United States of America. And that's because who we were, our cultures, our communities, and the way we communicated were functions of the places we took our identities from. The biggest problem we have as we talk about this today is to remember that everyone in this room, if you could go back far enough in your own heritage, you have a much richer heritage before you ever became a citizen of a nation state, as members of tribes, as members of clans, who took your clothing, your food, your dwellings, your symbolic universe, your spiritual practices and insights, from that very unromantic, real, experiential sense of place that you had. Everyone in that room has that to claim. Some are very distantly related from that. And of course, in the kind of world we live in today where people are extremely geographically mobile, this is the challenge, to reconnect the cultural diversity of the world that we're rapidly losing because, I might add, we are destroying the biological diversity, which is the foundation for the cultural diversity. That is the nature-culture nexus, that symbiotic relationship that made Zoyaha who they were, that made the Dene in their beautiful worldviews and philosophies and culture who they were, the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota speakers who they were. We have a tremendous opportunity now in this land, generally speaking, to re-explore the rejection of one-size-fits-all technology solutions to the problems we face. It's not one-size-fits-all. The home you live in, the clothes you eat, I hope you're not eating clothes. The clothes you wear, some of you might be getting to that point, but the clothes you wear, the food you eat, it should be connected to that place where you reside, where you call home. Native people have that. They remember it. I'm not saying it's all intact. It's not. We've had 500 years of colonialism, and it has had a definite impact. But we have tremendous opportunities to really explore what it means to reconnect the places we call home, even in urban areas, to landscapes, to communities, to places, and enhance incredible cultural opportunities. Probably the biggest challenge I'd say we're going to have today is we have to be very realistic. Even in the United States, about 70% of those who are legally who are recognized by the colonial power of the United States government as being Indians, okay, live in the Bay Area, live in Detroit, live in Denver, live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They live in urban areas. They live in some of those suburban sprawls. And so the question there is very intriguing. How do you affirm Native identities, even in urban areas? I think it's a tremendous opportunity to engage that question today. So these are difficult questions. I think we're going to have all kinds of great contributions, ways that we can talk about this. So that's why I'm excited to be here. I'll roll up my sleeves and try to facilitate and help with some of the heavy lifting, but I think let's do it. Let's have an honest discussion about how we can make places that people can identify with as a home, not a suburban development or urban apartment complex. Let's move from the warehousing of humans. I think that model is not a good one. Thank you very much. I'll stop right there.